From now on, all the upcoming videos of this series will be available early for the members of the channel. That means that if you have the membership, you will get access to the videos before they will be released to the public. It's a great way to stay ahead and support the channel and dive into the content as soon as it's ready. Thank you so much for all the support, and as always, happy coding.
Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel, and this is going to be the next part of our Kotlin Essential series. And in this video we will be covering classes and constructor, or you can say the building blocks of creating apps with Kotlin. So by the end of this video you'll learn about what classes are, what are the constructors, how we can use classes or how you can use constructors, right? So we'll start with classes. A class is basically a blueprint. It's just like similar of how or what the architecture creates for when basically making a house. What he does is that he makes a blueprint of like the whole structure, the kind of structure of the building that will have, and then you can use that, to create as many houses as you want on that specific design. The same thing is with classes in programming language. When you are basically creating different kind of applications, you need some sort of kind of objects, right? Like for example, when we are making a social media app, you will need a person, a post that he does, and then comments. So these are like three different things that you need. Now what you will do is that you'll create class for person, class for the post, and class for comments. So each class or each blueprint is supposed to, contain relevant kind of information. For example, all the information related to person should be inside the class, and also the behavior, like the kind of actions that can the person can perform, or that can be performed over the person, are basically should be part of, that person class. Same goes for the post. If the post can have their own details, like what kind of, if it's an image, is it a reel, is it a video, is it something else, and then what kind of information are available for that post, and then the behavior of that. So basically the idea is to separate the related stuff into into one chunk or one capsule, and the other one goes to other one. So that's basically how the classes works. And if I keep on explaining this way, you might not get what I mean when I talk about encapsulating things. So I'll show you an example of how we encapsulate thing, and how easy it is to create a blueprint and then reuse it for like so many things. So let's just get started with that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to show you, like, if we don't use classes, what are the problems, and how we can fix that, right? So for example, I have a person. I need a person, and also I need a car. Okay, so there is some sort of information for person, like the name of the person, age of the person, and let's say occupation. So these are the three things that I need. And the person can also have some sort of functionality or some sort of behavior. For example, the person can walk, he can talk, he can eat. So so these are the things that we need for a person. And then for a car, you have a make, you have a model, you have manufacturer, right? And same at the same time, there has some behaviors for the car as well, that the car can can be like driven. So the car can drive, and also what else, the car can, let's say, play music. So these are some sort of behavior for the car, right? Now let's say I have a person named Furkan. So what I'll do is that I'll have some information for them. Is that for example, Furkan name is Furkan. Then I'll create another name, another user, and basically the age of Furkan. Let's call it 33, and then we'll have occupation. So we'll say occupation is equals to um, SE, software engineer, right? Now I have a car, let's say, and I have a basically Suzuki Alto. So let's just do that, and we will be saying the wall make is basically 2025, 2025. wall model is alto. Oh, sorry, should be string alto, and then manufacturer is Suzuki, right? Now, I also mentioned that there are some functionality that basically a person can do, and that is basically for that, what you'll do is that you have some functionality that you can define over here is that basically walk, then we have one more function to talk, and then one more function that is eat, right? And what else? Then you have drive, so function drive, that is for car. And lastly there will be play music, so you can say function play music. Okay, so now that's something we have. We have this information that's for Khan is one, and then there is one for car, and then we have these functionalities like this. Now let's say without classes things become something like this. Now let's say there is one more person that's been added to this system and whose name is Ahmed, let's say. Now what you are going to do is that you're going to say wall named 1 is equals to Ahmed, wall age is equals to 24, let's say. And let's say like since I'm very busy, I just forget about the occupation and I don't remember like if there is any sort of occupation as well. And now I'll have to do like this repeated one. So walk one, talk one, and eat one, because there is this new addition for Ahmed. So what I did is that basically I kind of repeated a lot of things over here. Now it's so confusing. Let's say in the later stages I have 10% or 100%, and each one have these three functionality. It will become a huge mess, right? And we know the walking for each user will be similar, the talking for each user will be similar, and eating basically everybody have similar things. So these kind of things make things so complex. And now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to do the similar thing, but with a better approach in which, things won't break, and, it will be pretty straightforward. So rather than having all these things, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a class, and let's call that class a person. Okay. And now you remember we had these three things. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to place those three things. Let's, define that they will be strings, so that we don't add some default value for now. We'll work on the default stuff later on, but let's say for now, let's just do this. And that is also going to be string equals to null, right? Now the next thing was that it has these three functionality: walk, talk, and eat. So I'm going to take all that and add that functionality or that behavior inside this class, right? So we have these things. Let me just do it. Oops. Okay. Now the class person is ready, and now we don't need this. We will be getting rid of all this Ahmed and stuff, and we'll also get rid of all this eat, walk, talk, shock, and everything. Okay. Now the next thing that we'll do is that I'm gonna say wall for Khan, that is going to be a person. So I'm gonna say person straight, and then we'll be saying for Khan dot name is equals to, let's say, uh, for Khan, and then you will be saying for Khan dot age is equals to 33, and then for Khan dot occupation is equals to SC. Now, there is one mistake that I did is that I added all these wall, and if you set things to wall, they're not changeable. And when I run this, it will fail. So we have covered this in in the variable class video. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna change it to variable now. And now let's say when I try to run this, this should work. Along with that, one more thing that I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna create one more function, and that is going to be print data. And what it's gonna do is that it's gonna do print ln, and it's gonna say name is going to be name, right? And then we'll be showing backslash n. This backslash n mean is that it will change the line to, it will go to the next line. and then we'll be using age is going to be age, and then again backslash n for a new line, and then the last one is going to be occupation, which is going to be occupation, right? So once you do that, this means now I can use this function from over here like this. I'm going to say furkan dot print data. So what I did is that I actually basically created this. Now at the same time, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create one more thing, and that is going to be Ahmed, right? Like we created, and this time what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna just straight away create that person class, and rather than using Furkan, this time I'll be using Ahmed dot name. Name is equals to Ahmed. Ahmed dot occupation. Sorry, Ahmed dot age is equals to 24, and then Ahmed dot, or let's just forget about this right now. Let's just not use this. Okay, and now we'll be using Ahmed dot print data. Okay, so now I've add these things. These two variables are added. The alto is still the way it was before. We'll get to that, but other than that, you can see this right now the way it is. Now let me just run this. Now when you see and I run this, you will see that I have name, age, and occupation printed for Furkan, and for Ahmed, the occupation is coming as null. Now let's say occupation is very important in our system, and we can't live without that. And if you use something like this, it will cause so many problems, like a user might forget about this. So if there are these kind of scenario, like these kind of things, here basically the primary constructor helps you with handling, so that if there are like some required information that is supposed to be there every time, then you'll have to use constructors and handle it in a better way than this approach that we did. But before jumping in there, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a car class. So for that, what we'll do is that I'm going to create class car. Okay, and then this car should have an information, for example, like we did var make string to null. Then we have var model string equals to null. Lastly is going to be var, should be war as well. War manufacturer is equals to null. And we also have two functionalities for this as well. That is basically drive and play music. So we're gonna use that inside this as well. And now what you can do is that you can get rid of this. And rather than using these kind of information, what we'll do is that we'll create um, wall for car is equals to car. And now rather than using this wall like this, we'll be using this, this, and this. And you can do the same for Ahmed as well. Now the problem again, like I mentioned, that there can be some points when you are using these kind of like direct accessing of these properties, you might forget, or like a developer might forget about something, some information, and they like it can be accidentally deleting something. Now, in this case, uh, it's again multiple lines being used, and also there are like these issues that you can do. So basically, to help with these kind of problems, we have constructors that basically make sure if there is like anything that is super required and you cannot live without that, you can use the constructors for that, and you can still keep some stuff optional as well. But we can't do that, so we need all these information. So for that, rather than using them over here like this, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to take that off, and I'll add it over here. Now I'm not going to make them nullable, so which means that all of these are required, and all of these should be provided when creating this. Now what I did over here is that basically I created this primary constructor. A constructor is basically something that is the first function, that is the first method that should be called to create, right? And that's exactly what we are going to do now. is that when you create a person, the primary constructor is now requiring at least three different variables. And if you don't pass that, it will not work. Now let me just run this with this specific approach. You will see that it will fail, and it's saying that you didn't pass the value for name, age, occupation. That is for this one. And then there is one more error that you can see it, you didn't pass value for name, age, and occupation for this one. And there is one more thing, and it says that the car make is not okay. I think you can make an int for a. Okay, so now you will see that these two errors are there, and like we know that why these are. Now to handle that, what we are gonna do is that you can just pass the information now into the constructor sc, right? And now I can get rid of all these three lines. Now if I run it, you will see that this will be fixed, but this will still complain. And you can see that this is complaining because we haven't passed anything into the constructor. Now so for that, I'm gonna do Ahmed, and then age is 24. And now you remember previously we forgot about occupation. Let's try without passing the occupation. Now if I run this again, it will still complain that you're not passing the occupation. You need to define that occupation for that user. Now let's say that Ahmed guy is basically a doctor. So we added that doctor, and now if you run this, you will see that it will be okay. Okay, so there seems to be some problem with the manufacturer. Okay, you can see I basically created a. Now if you run this, you can see that name, age, and occupation is there. And also the code is like very clean. We have this one blueprint that's there, and it's like not doing much. And then over here we are just passing these kind of information into the classes while creating. So this is how basically the classes helps, and also how the constructor can help in these kind of things. Now let's say, like I mentioned, there is one thing that's an optional thing. If user adds it, it's a good thing. If not, uh we don't care about that. For example, we have a hobby, war hobby, and that is going to be string. When you do this and you run this, it will complain that you need to define a hobby, because like it's now requiring, we basically added that into it. Now the easy way is to fix this is to add it as null, because we don't need the hobby, like we don't want to pass the hobby for now for these users. Now let's say, for example, there is an app, and you have created that app, and it's been so much time since you created that app, and there has been so many classes that have used it. Now there is one another kind of user that came in that have a hobby, and you want to add this new basically optional value or a optional parameter into the constructor. So if you add it this way, you'll have to change all the previous objects, or all the previous objects that basically created in maybe last 3-4 years. And there can be thousands of objects of that. So to handle that, what you can do is that you can define a default value for this, which means now if you pass a value, it will take that new value. If not, you can use the default value for that. Now the previous implementation for all these things should be the way this is. And for new implementation, you can, let's say, create one more user, and then that person is going to be Irfan, and the age is, let's say, 34, and he is a businessman. And lastly, his hobby is playing cricket. Now, now you can see that the first two has no value that we have passed for playing cricket, and the last one has the value that we have passed. If you run the, oh sorry, there's one more thing I need to do. I need to print the data for fun, and that so that we know what's going on. Now, if you run this, you will see that we still were able to create the relevant information for this. And also the Irfan also got the playing cricket. Although we didn't printed it over here, we could definitely print them. But even if not, you can see that this is how we can have like public constructors. Now there's one more thing. If you come from Java, you might remember that a constructor used to be a function that would run, right? And there was like some sort of initialization, and these kind of thing would have also been done in that, or like some sort of default printing and stuff like that. In Kotlin, it's slightly different. But like over here, it feels like you have a function, but there is no body for that where you can run those kind of things. So for that, what Kotlin gives you is that it gives you an init function. The init function is something that basically takes all these values. It will be available over here, and you can use them. Now, for example, let's say I don't want this print data function to be called. I just want this, if everything is available, just print it straight away with when the object is created, without having that specifically called. And also you can also see that these functionality, I have added this war and these kind of things. Now let me do what I did is that I removed that function print and I added into init, which means that whenever that object is created, it will straight away call this function and print this. Now let's get rid of this print data as well, this one as well, and also this one. Okay, now we have these three objects, and it should basically, as soon as these objects are created, it will print the information. And now let me show you. I'll run the code, and you can see it still printed everything. Now let's say there is one more thing that you can do for printing if basically the hobby is not null. And let's say for that you say hobby dot let, and you can say print ln hobby and pass that IT into it. Now what I did over here is that basically I added this nullable checked into this. Will basically cover this. What exactly does it does is that it checks if this hobby has some value other than null. It will let this block of code run. If not, it will not. So that's how it is. It does. We'll cover this in the nullability video, but for now, let's just look into this. Now, what I did is that it does some sort of basic setup. There will be so many cases when you're working, when you're creating classes. The class might need some sort of initialization, some sort of configurations to be done, and this is how you will be doing those configuration through the init function or the init block. Okay, so we'll run this, and you will see now the hobby comes for the fun as well, which as playing cricket. For other, it doesn't. Right, now there's one more thing I think we can do, and that is basically, if for those who are coming from Java, who has seen like a constructors like this, like in Java the constructor seems to be something as function, person, and it has some sort of information like this. And this block used to be for these kind of initialization. In Kotlin, what it does is that it's similar to this. What you can do to test that out, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to make this a function, not just as a variable, like this. I've removed this age as well. I've removed uh, this and this as well. Okay, now when you do this, let me try accessing any of this in any of the rest of the function other than the init. Let's say we try to call this name, and what I'm going to do is that I'm going to say println name. That's all I want to do, right? And over here from for Khan, I'm going to call that function. What was the function? It was walk. Now, if you look into this, ideally, you should think that, this should print the name, right? Now, let me run this. It will complain. It will say that you cannot find the name over here. But it's not complaining about the init function. So basically, for again, for those who have seen constructor in Java, what you have is that you have a function that has the same name of class, and you basically have a block which initialize it. In Kotlin, what it does is that this is the same definition, this is the same name of constructor, but the block of code that basically runs that, or you want to run on that, is basically added over here. So the init function still can access these variables, these values that are basically passed as a function, but the other functionalities cannot access. And for other functionality to let them access, what you need to do is that you need to define it either as wall or war. Now if I run this, you will see that it will now be able to access that name function and print it. And that is over here. We basically defined it from the constructor, and then over here it basically printed these names. So this is basically something that's slightly different in Kotlin, and this is how you can use it. Like if the constructor parameters are just temporarily, you just need it to initialize something, and then you don't need them, you can always use something like this so that the other functionalities don't access them. And hence, if the other functionality is not accessing them, there could be chances that it won't be like altered. But if you want these values to be available in throughout the whole class, you can define them as a parameters and properties. So if we talk about this, these are just parameters that are available for one function, that is the init. And if you add a wall or var in front of that, this means now these are basically become the class properties and can be accessed in the whole class scope. The class scope is this. So basically anything inside these two curly brackets, it can access if you add it this way. And this was some information about how the classes work in Kotlin. So I hope you understood how basically we can create objects, how classes work, how constructor work in Kotlin. And in the next video, we will be covering collection. So thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, happy coding. Bye bye. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you found this tutorial helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and press the bell icon so you don't forget any update. If you got any question, you can join my Discord server. The link is in the description. Also, for quick updates and tips, you can follow me on Instagram. Until next time, keep learning, keep developing. Bye.